Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Good afternoon. We're here with Mesa County Compass, and today we're interviewing Mr. Ben VanDyke, who is our city council member, one of the 7. And he's got some interesting things to share with us, and we have some good questions for him, we think. So welcome, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for coming on.
I always enjoy it.
Oh, we enjoy you. We kind of wanted to do 3 things today. The first is, can you just give us a little bit of an explanation of what the strategic plan actually looks like for City Council? I know they were developing it, and I slept and it passed, and I don't know what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I should have brought my printout with me so that I had my rundown, but basically we're getting back to focusing on the strategic core services of the city, the services that only the city can offer and that we can really offer exceptional services on: our utilities, our water, our streets, the infrastructure, parks and rec, the real basic needs of a municipality. So as we do that, we're going through a lot of reorganization that we've seen with like our sustainability department, our mobility department, and a lot of reorganization. But basically we've broken our strategic plan down into 5 pillars. The first of which is public safety, and it's going to be huge. We are adding four officers to our traffic enforcement division this year.
Nice.
It'll be up to 8 over the next year. We currently are only with 1 traffic enforcement officer, and anytime there's any sort of incident that needs an additional resource, that officer gets pulled off traffic and goes to attend to help whoever needs help across town. So getting back to actually having some traffic enforcement, I think will go a long way, especially with things like the 4th and 5th Street project, where we could have maybe just done some enforcement from the beginning and solved some of the problems that we saw with the speeding. I might be out of line with my pillars because we've been moved on to budget already, so my mind's been very much in budget. So we also have government transparency, fiscal responsibility, housing, and one other pillar I'm drawing a blank on, and I apologize. But for our housing, essentially what we're looking on kind of falls in line with our housing affordability task force, to where we're looking at reducing the red tape, the extra costs that builders are having to come across in building. Not only that, but reducing the permitting time so that these builders aren't having to pay so much interest on property and material while they're waiting for things to run through the permit process. The quicker we can get a product to market, the lower price that product's going to have.
Absolutely.
We're getting a little bit of pushback from some of the community that they were concerned that the builders are just going to use that to pad their profit. But just knowing that we have so much competition within our community, I think the free market itself will sort that out. And if a builder can find a niche in that low-cost housing and actually make it work financially, I think we'll see some builders really jump on that opportunity to get into that space. Our fiscal responsibility and transparency, I'm trying to remember if that's 1 or 2, I do apologize. But we're trying to look very forward-facing up into the future as we move into some more of these tighter times with tax revenue not really meeting expectations and just kind of an uncertain future. I don't think anybody really knows what the next year is going to look like. In a lot of ways, it could be fantastic and great.
Would be wonderful.
It would be wonderful. And if that's the case, we are going to be in such a fantastic position because we've positioned ourselves to be okay regardless. Even if we don't hit our sales tax revenue projections, the city's still going to be good because we are in such a strong, healthy financial position at this point with a really strong reserve balance.
Good. No extra
Sort
spending.
of like what the school district had been
Exact-
able to do, the previous people on the school board.
Exactly. Well, and it's also kind of, right sizing things and looking at, it's not necessarily no, it's just not right now on a lot of things. And it's also, hey, maybe we don't need the fanciest and the shiniest. We can get away with a little bit of a, reduced down version that still serves our community very well. So I think looking forward in those ways, it can put us in a really exceptional situation, because as things improve, since we've been so responsible with our tax revenue, that we can be in a really great place moving forward, when I don't necessarily think we're going to see that with some of these other communities across Colorado.
And maybe we would have somewhat of a chance of attracting some outside interest to come into our valley and help our economy.
I think so. I honestly think we're on the verge of some really great things. I see like the 24 road corridor, how beautifully that's developed. I think in the next year or two, we're going to see an explosion out that way. As interest rates start creeping back down, I think we'll see the commercial building really kick off. We had a conversation with the developer of the Dos Rios lot on Monday, and they've got about a $7 million investment in that property. And they're even, they came to us and said, we missed our opportunity by about 6 months in the COVID time frame with the super low interest rates, when that commercial building really took off. He says, we just got there a little bit late, interest rates skyrocketed, and commercial construction kind of went stagnant. So they're hopeful that, over the next year, as interest rates drop down, they're going to start seeing some movement on that property. So we ended up extending out the purchase on a section of that property for them, so that they're not carrying so much weight within that development as well.
And do you think we might see a reduction of the impact fees, or is that something we can't revisit for a certain period of time?
So on Monday night, the HBA came to us, and they are challenging the methodology used to basically calculate the park impact fee. And essentially the majority of that fee is going to park and open space acquisition. What they're claiming is that the methodology used by Tischler Bias when they went through the study went off an average home price, which wasn't truly a median home price in our area, which can make a pretty drastic difference. The Tischler bias, it can lead to about a $20 million maximum legally defensible amount that the city can collect over 10 years. The HBA and their attorney that they've consulted with are challenging that amount should be closer to $6 million, and that looking historically back over the last 10 years, that there's actually been only about $2 million spent on park and open space acquisition. So we, as a council, we're not able to make decisions within workshop, but we directed staff to go back and to look at the methodology used with Tischler bias to hopefully come to a more appropriate number that works better for our community. We really started to get into the weeds on it, which it wasn't really the right time to get into the weeds on it. But one of the big points that I had made was, we live in Mesa County that's 70% open space, over 70% open space, public lands. I mean, that's an incredible thing. I don't know how many communities can say they are entirely surrounded by public land.
Not too many.
So when we look at what we're programming within our community, is it necessary to program as much open space on the outskirts of a community that's already surrounded by open space? And is that just an increased cost to a developer that's just getting passed on eventually to the consumer? So I'm really hopeful that we'll come back, and that's especially with that park impact fee, we'll be able to reduce it. Just speaking from the position of one of seven,
Right.
But we had, I think, overwhelming support for them to go back and to recalculate that and to look at that methodology.
Every little bit helps.
It does, it does.
Well, it's huge. It's and that was one of the things that I found so striking during the original impact fee conversation, was that we talked about $8,000 to $20,000 as such a minuscule amount of money, but we don't recognize that $8,000 to $20,000 is bumping X amount of families out of the range of qualifying for a home. So for the person that's well-to-do, yeah, that $8,000 to $20,000 is probably your wiggle room in the negotiations of a house price anyway. So it might not be as impactful, but for somebody trying to get into a starter home, it could be the make or break
It's
difference.
impossible.
Right.
It's an impossible situation.
And really, for what benefit?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you have to say. How is this benefiting the homeowner as well, or even the community?
Yep.
And some of the regulations that they want to put on. Well, if we put and I know they didn't go through with this, but if we put all the cables underground, that looks better, and it does. Or if we put a charging station in everybody's house, so they can have an electric vehicle, I don't necessarily want one.
The rules and regulations.
And so
are
it's just adding to the cost all the time.
And we talk so much about affordable housing, we talk so much about AMI, but we don't talk about the fact that we are making the bottom end of housing so expensive that we don't have that entry level anymore. We don't, I look at these things as amenities, and amenities are things that you pay for, but they're also things that are cost savings. So if you're willing to live without an amenity, it's a cost saving for you. So take the mandatory bicycle storage, for instance. That's an amenity that if an apartment developer wants to have a very urban-centric development, that might be a great amenity for them to add that's going to bring people to them, because that's the people that are they're going to want to live there. But when you start requiring all of these things on every single project, and then we wonder why the bottom line is so much that we can't have affordable housing, it just seems really obvious to me that we have to reduce as much of that red tape as possible responsibly. We're not talking about building codes. We're not talking about fire codes. We're talking about sidewalk widths and setbacks. The amount of space you can build on a lot. These little things that are $3,000 here, $5,000
makes a
here,
huge difference,
and
Bill.
they add up.
Huge difference.
And you add them up with the, the time it takes to get through planning, which can vary greatly. We do have developers that are really good at the process that get through planning quickly. Not as quickly as some communities, but they're able to navigate the system quickly. But not all builders have that person in the office that is just so up to date on the code, the zoning, that they know exactly what the city planning department's looking for, that they can submit something that's going to go through right away. So I give our planning department a lot of credit. They are really working on their process right now and their flexibility to where they're accepting more incomplete applications and just reaching back out to these developers and saying, hey, we're missing this on the next go around, we have to have this, be aware.
Well, it does help them, because you may have a new startup in town that doesn't really understand all our rules and regulations, and it could kill their business before it ever gets started. So yes.
Or that guy that's got a chunk of land that he's lived on for 35 years and decides, I should develop this. And gets
has no idea how.
Yep.
No.
And he's the one that's in there for 2.5 years trying to get it through, and it never comes to fruition because it's cost him so much. So trying to figure out ways to reduce that as much as possible. And the state's Prop 123 program is really big on moving things through the planning process as quickly as possible, but theirs is an emphasis on capital A affordability, moving those through the planning process as quickly as possible. I'll give Mike Bennett and our city staff a ton of credit. They went at this from day one and said, everything that we can fix for Prop 123, we want to make that a system-wide fix. We don't want to just streamline affordable housing. We want everything moving through the system faster. So how do we get to that point?
Well, it helps everybody,
Because
it just gives more room to be able to do more.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, and I think we're getting to a really great place of a culture of working towards yes. Instead of there being roadblocks and finding no. It's, hey, we have these obstacles, but this is what we're going to do together to work towards yes to get past this. And it just makes a completely different feeling, environment. You know, Mike had actually even spoke a little bit about it last night, how he wants people's interactions with the city to be exceptional. He wants, even if it's just somebody coming into the desk at the front of City Hall, he wants them to leave feeling like that person really cared, really listened, and really helped me find a solution. He spoke about that last night in the reading of our budget. And I found that so refreshing to have a leadership that truly wants that. I mean, that's
kind of different because that's what we had talked about in an earlier town hall, is trying to make Grand Junction more friendly, if you will.
Well, and the idea that we are the customers. The public is the customer of the city, and the city is supposed to serve the customer.
Yep.
And so,
if you can't, you can't. But if you can, work at it.
And you know, we have the majority of staff is under department heads. Mike is over our department heads. Council is over Mike, the city judge, the city attorney, and my opinion is the community is over us. You know, it's our job to advocate for the community. We're just a conduit. We're a big funnel that we need to be out there absorbing and funneling information in so that we have a true feeling of what our constituents are looking for and what they want. That's really our only role.
And what's real.
Exactly.
And not just what's a public perception.
Yep. And it's not Ben's opinion, it's not Robert's opinion, it's not Anna's opinion. It's got to be our community's opinion, and we're just a conduit. And even within that, you're going to see some variances because, you know, like myself, I'm very involved in the business community. So most of the people I'm speaking to are part of the business community. Scott is in the nonprofit sector and continually around the nonprofit sector. So the information he's getting is very different than what I'm getting, and he's representing that very well, I think, and I can represent my information very well. And I think it creates a real interesting dynamic that really works well for our city, that we have all these different perspectives, but we're all trying to drive towards a common good.
Yeah, there has to be a common goal in there.
On the transparency piece, what are you doing to be more transparent, and relate that to the budget especially?
Yeah, so first off, I think there's probably more available online right now regarding the budget than there's probably ever been before, and staff has done a really great job with that. You know, we're working on these town halls, which I think are really great. And, you know, one of the best things I found about the town hall were the conversations I had before the town hall and after the town hall, where it's like the conversation we had about the golf course. It's like we were really able to work through some stuff in those situations that just, you know, a Q&A format probably wasn't going to give.
Right.
And I think having the accessibility of having 7 council members standing in the front of the room, and it ends and you can walk up and ask anybody a question or have that conversation or ask staff, or we can direct the staff. I think that's a really great opportunity to move in that direction. One thing that I'm very excited about is our push towards having all the board meetings filmed, video recorded, and on the city agenda website, just like a city council meeting. So if you want to see a DDA meeting, you just click on the link and you watch the DDA meeting. If you want to see, you know, any of these different, you know, Visit GJ, all of these different board meetings, that way you can kind of truly understand how an idea is formed and the way it's working its way through government. And it's all out there instead of it being, well, was this decided in a back room or
closed doors? Yep.
Exactly. And so often that's how things look, just because there are so many gaps in information. And if we can fill those gaps in, I mean, I'm a big believer in the more we share, the better outlook we're going to have. You know, I think people people find the negativity in those gaps. So we reduce the gaps, we share everything, and then we also can give people a map of how something happens. If somebody has a question about a project or 29 Road, we can say, this is exactly what's happened, this is the process it's gone through. And that's something I'm really excited about with some of these different AI platforms they're looking at implementing right now, both with the planning department and on a bigger level with the city, that they can access any information within the city system, emails, board meetings, all of it. So you can truly track an idea from its infancy to completion and see whose desks it touched, who had comments on it, what they thought. And it just, I'm really excited for that, just to, because, you know, there are things like 29 Road that it's very, you know, part of our community is very excited for that. Part of our community doesn't want to see it happen. So it's really easy for the, you know, the supporters to be on board, and the people that are against it think, well, like, we already voted against this. Why is this happening? It's getting pushed through behind closed doors and all these things. But when we can say, like, well, no, actually, there was this grant money available. The city and the county came together and had a meeting and decided to pursue this grant money for the design work, which actually separated the interchange from the 29 Road corridor, so that we have the opportunity to do improvements to the 29 Road corridor without the interchange, if the interchange doesn't come to fruition. So it's like things like that, just the more we can share, it just, I think it's best for everyone.
Well, you can't keep people in the dark. People conjure up all kinds of weird stuff when they're in the dark.
Well, and part of it too, though, I think I always have a concern with grants, because I want to know everything that's in the grant. What are they asking us to do to get the grant?
Now, what is that little hook?
Yeah. What are you saying that if you have this new sewer line, well, part of that is you have to have a homeless shelter. And that is not something that I think all grants should be evaluated and say, is this grant for the good of the city?
Absolutely.
And I wonder if they're looking at that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And there have been grants that we've definitely passed on because of that. Kind of like the accelerator grant that the Urban Trails Committee had recommended, just because we look at it as we live in a state with very strict environmental regulations, and imposing more strict environmental regulations on one of the state's poorer economies, honestly, doesn't work for Grand Junction. It just doesn't, we can't make that work fiscally.
Doesn't fit.
No, not at all. So I think we have to evaluate everything, and it's been something I've spoke about even with like the Proposition 1, 2, 3 funding, that we have to be very careful about not letting Prop 1, 2, 3 govern us, which changing a bunch of policy just to fit within Prop 1, 2, 3 without actually knowing that Prop 1, 2, 3 is even going to be a long-term plan. You know, as I see the state's budget reduce, I think things like that are probably going to be
an unfunded mandate.
Well, and first in line to get chopped. So, but I also fully support the city's push to get those funds, because I mean, it is there's been a ton of grant money that's come into these housing projects, and I think we'll see. I don't, like, the Salt Flats project isn't something I would have supported if I was on council when it was coming to fruition. With that being said, I'm really excited to see what happens with it. It could either be well, I told you so, or we might end up with some housing that's like some workforce housing that makes Grand Junction affordable. I think it could go both ways. I like that there's some for sale units available within there. I don't love the deed restrictions, but at least they are trying to set the deed restrictions up to where there's an equity release system to them, so that if people are there for like 5+ years, they have the availability to move that equity, some of that equity out of that place, but the value will stay down on that home for the long term. So as we get to this place where the starter home is no longer feasible, I don't know if this is going to be the right answer or not, but I am very curious to see as it plays out. You know, I could be very wrong, and my hope is that we kind of pump the brakes on some of our future developments until we can really see
evaluate
how this goes. how these partnerships work out, how the management piece is going to play out on the partnerships. You know, I've spoke out against the city being a special equity partner in these projects.
Now explain what a special equity partner is.
So essentially, when years and years ago, the city developed the Grand Junction Housing Authority, because as a housing authority, they have tools that they're essentially tax exempt on materials. They're able to get very low cost funding. They have a lot of different tools that us as a city can't use because we're not a nonprofit. So that's why we formed our housing authority. As our housing authorities reached capacity with what they're able to handle, and our city has gained a housing department, that work has continued to move forward past what the housing authority was able to do. Well, now they're looking at these partnerships and saying, to make these affordable housing projects actually feasible, we need that tax exempt status so that we're able to build these for less than we would at market rate. But since the city can't offer that, what they're looking for is these municipalities to form another nonprofit and to be an equity partner in the project. So to essentially keep a stake. And I don't think the city should be an equity partner. At that point, I think we're getting into the housing game much further than
You're down in the weeds.
It's one thing when we are helping a developer or helping a project happen that's going to be very cost effective, and then at the end of it we step away. When we get into these long-term, these long-term relationships, that I don't want to see the city get into competition with the private sector in housing.
That's exactly right.
That's my biggest.
Well, and it is because the city has the advantage.
Yep.
I can push you out because I have the ability to do things you can't do.
Well, and not only that, but the developers that are able and actually have the staff to work on these affordable housing projects. I mean, you have to have a significant office staff that is just pushing paperwork through to make these affordable housing projects work. They're technical, there are a lot of hoops, and it kind of creates a little bit of an unfair advantage for the guy that is building market rate, that works out of his garage, hauls his truck, tools in his truck, that doesn't have, he's not going after grant money. Grant money's never been even something that he considered. But you'll start looking at some of the capital stacks for these affordable housing projects, and the developers they're not really as invested in them. I mean, they have very little equity rolled into these projects just because there are so many different tools and funds out there available to complete the project. So it's kind of a weird deal, and it makes me start wondering, it's like, well, how could we figure out a way that we're helping the little guy here? How do we get affordable housing out of our little local developer instead of a Front Range developer or an out-of-state developer? Something I've talked a lot about is, and something I don't think a lot of people recognize is that $1 in our community turns over so many times, but when we send that dollar outside of Grand Junction, it's gone. It's never coming back. It's never coming back.
That's one of the big things that I have been hollering about for years, is we go over the hill to get all of our bids and everything, and why? We've got perfectly qualified people
Absolutely. There. Well, and I find it kind of ironic too, because a lot, like what we're seeing with a lot of these big developers, is they're hiring Shaw for their GC. So it's like, well, could we not have found somebody locally to do the site development with Shaw? Because Shaw is fully capable of building. They did the Mother Teresa's place. They did the Junction apartment complex. I mean, they run a tight ship and are very, very good at what they do. Amongst many other contractors, even I look at like the asphalt stuff. United, when you get into road construction, like we have a lot of very skilled, contractors within our community that maybe if we set up these systems to where, our housing department was working more with them instead of looking outwards because they
And
didn't
keep it
think-
local.
Yeah, and
Keep it local.
So on the housing authority, or on the housing department, do you have the expertise for that?
I think we do in a lot of ways. I think it's just narrowing in on the scope of what we're actually trying to do. Me personally, I would much rather see our housing department support the housing authority in what they do, support Habitat for Humanity in what they do, and really help these different organizations overcome hurdles. When I see Habitat for Humanity having to leave the city and go out into the county for these developments,
Right.
I question, when we have a partner like that has been so successful in our community for so long, why aren't we finding ways to make that feasible within our community instead of some of these
Perfect logical.
some of these
Perfect
outside developers? And don't get me wrong, like some of these developers we're working with are they specialize in these mega complexes. They are sharp, they are great at what they do. My only complaint is that dollar leaves our community.
Yes.
Well, let's move on to the homeless, and just where are we with the resource center? What you can say, what the plans are for it, because I know a lot of people are curious, and just what
Curious
is
and furious.
Curious and furious, yes, and just what is the city's role in dealing with homelessness?
Yeah. You're referring to the North Avenue shelter?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Homeward bound.
It's it's very fluid right now. They were supposed to come to our workshop meeting on Monday and present to us for the future funding that they had originally asked for. As they're going through their reorganization, they have declined to come forward. We're not really sure if there's going to be an ask at this point or not. What we're being told that is they don't see a financially successful way forward for the North Avenue shelter in the future. So what I'm being told that is even if they find funding to get through the winter, that the plan is to close down come March and to focus on Pathways, their 29 road facility, which is the family shelter.
And that's more permanent dwelling, isn't it?
I can't speak for certain on that. I think that it's supposed to be transitional.
Yeah, more like a transition,
Yeah.
but a longer term.
Exactly. Yeah,
transition.
and I believe so. I'm not certain on that, but that's kind of what I'm being told is that's their focus moving forward. Right now, it's so much in the air. It's really hard because they've gone through a giant reorganization. Their financials, they just weren't working for them anymore. They didn't see a path forward to make things work. The city, we actually had read about it in the newspaper just like everybody else. I think a lot of people think that there was an ask of city council before the decision was made to shut things down. But we actually had the pending ask when all of this happened. So we were kind of just waiting to be able to ask Homeward Bound the questions that we all had, because as a council, we have a lot of questions about, funding, how things have gone over the last year, some of the funding sources that they used to rely on, the different salaries that they have, different packages
Just
that
an
can.
accounting of the funds that have come in, because I know of massive amount of dollars that have gone into that privately.
Yep.
And where did that money go? And why would they come to you to ask for what, $50,000, extra? Why? And that's where I'm coming from, and where a lot of our people are up in arms about. We put money into this. What happened? Everybody says we've supported them all along, and they don't understand why.
Well, in pre-2020, if you go back and you look at what the city was actually contributing to Homeward Bound, it was usually about $50,000 a year. After COVID, the ARPA funds became available, and that's when we really started to see this huge increase in what the city was putting into into Homeward Bound, which it jumped 250, 500,000, and kind of was in that range right there. I've got a lot of questions that I still would like to have answered, frankly. I would, from what I was told, they sold the tent. I'd like to know how much money the tent was sold for and where those funds went.
We have heard $77,000 is all they got out of that tent, which to me is ludicrous.
Yep.
But,
Well, they said it because of the wear and tear.
yeah, well,
It wasn't designed to be permanent, and so
Well, and
when you have $900,000 though that you paid for it, and 1 year later,
yep.
$77,000.
that is depreciation.
Well, that comes back to the, I think as a council we have to look at the long game, and I think our previous council did a lot of good in a lot of different areas, but this is one I don't think they really had the eye on the long game. I think winter coming upon the city made everybody want to act fast. They felt the emergency was coming, so there was a lot of action without a lot of thought. The fact that we purchased $1 million tent, did all the utility work to that location, all the floor work,
the money that you put into that.
The amount of money that went into that facility could have purchased a warehouse in town, and we would still be sitting on an asset. And instead, we don't even have an asset at this point, and that money's
and that's
evaporated.
going to be the
A vacant
new
lot.
Well,
Yeah.
no, isn't that supposed to be part of the new
transit.
Mobility hub.
Yeah.
That'll be about a third of that's going to be part of the new mobility hub. So, and as a downtown business owner, downtown has really been uplifted over the last few months. It's if you go walk Main Street now, it's night and day difference compared to where it was about 6 months ago, which I am so grateful for, because we have an incredible Main Street. Our Main Street is the kind of place that when somebody comes to Grand Junction, they can fall in love. And we don't want to put, and this I don't want to be cold to our unhoused population, but when people don't feel safe on our Main Street, they're not going to fall in love.
No.
They're not going to fall in love with our community.
And they're not going out after 8 o'clock at night.
No, they're not walking from the hotel to check out an art gallery and grab a drink and then dinner. That's when the dollars get poured into our community. So I think it's still TBD with Homeward Bound in a lot of ways. Like I said, I still am hopeful that we'll be able to ask the questions. Mayor Kennedy has spent a absurd amount of time on this so far, meeting with Dan Prinster, Brittany, their director, I believe she is director, head of the board, and is just really trying to get all the financial information and really ask a lot of the hard questions. And I give him a ton of credit for that, because he is working so hard on that, and it's so nice to have somebody putting the effort and the energy in. As far as our role, it's hard. My thing is, if we can make a difference, if we can do good, and if we can impact lives, there's probably space for us to do it. But we also have an extremely limited amount of resources. So if we are going to put resources into something, we have to know that it's actually truly making a difference, that it's actually putting people in housing, that it's actually taking people out of our shelters, that it's actually taking people out of our court system and out of our jail and reducing costs on the public, on the system. We can't just spend money to say we spent money. We need to actually have metrics that show success.
We don't want to just manage homelessness. We want to improve.
Exactly.
Get people out of the system.
And I am, the county recently has started up a program called Mesa County Connects with Xavier Crockett, who has, I think, a life history of working with the unhoused population, has a huge heart for it, comes highly recommended from Mona Highline, who I respect about as much as anybody in this town. And the county also has Mesa County Public Health, which is much more suited to deal with the unhoused population than what we are. So I am really hopeful that if the county and the city can start to come together on this problem and actually try to work together instead of it being individual silos, my hope would be that we become more of a supportive role as opposed to a leader. I don't think it's our position to tell nonprofits how to execute their mission. I think that we have some nonprofits in our town that are great partners and that have proven success time after time. And if there's times that we can facilitate things to make their mission easier or to open up capacity for them, zoning, property acquisitions. I put Catholic Outreach is a great example. On 4th and Ute downtown, we had those asbestos-filled houses that sat on the corner for, they've been vacant for a very, very long, a really long time, where, Catholic Outreach had this plan for Mother Teresa's place in additional housing. City essentially took care of the remittance of the asbestos, tore the buildings down, and turned over the vacant property to Catholic Outreach, where it's a lot, but it's not an ongoing commitment. It's not an endless ask. It's not a blank check. It's a one-time opportunity to gain some more housing. And I give Catholic Outreach a ton of credit. The people that they are putting in that facility, a lot of them are working. A lot of them, they pay based on their income. They will kick people out if they're doing drugs, if they're smoking, if they're drinking.
So you've got compassion with accountability.
And it's really beautiful because from being next door, we see this community has created, and now these people are on the balcony chatting and having a nice afternoon, and they're out walking their dogs together around the building, and it's taken that group of people that were that close, that just the truly just needed that tiny little bit to break that cycle, the ones that were ready for it, and helped them out. Instead of treating the entire population the exact same way, giving them this broad stroke of services and saying good luck, we have finite resources, let's help the people that are ready for it, but we also have to figure out what that role looks like and how the city plays into it. Because I know, speaking with Robert Ballard on this, he's big on metrics. Robert's got a huge heart, but he doesn't want to see money just being wasted.
Right.
So if you can show him how well money's being spent and what a difference it's making, you're going to win him over 99 out of 100 times. If you ask for blank checks,
yes or no?
No, not so much.
And I think one of the big things that I see going on is not just those people that are just that far from making it. What I see are those that aren't going to make it. The ones that are not capable mentally to be able to handle this, or serious addictions.
Yeah.
And my concern is, what do we do with these people? Because they took the institutions away in the 70s, since that time, our homeless population has exploded. And I'm not sure that was a good thing. I do understand why that was done, but I'm not sure it was the right way to do it.
Yeah, and even on
And then what's the solution?
Yeah, what's the solution?
And honestly, that's one of those things I believe that's going to have to come from a higher level. We're either going to have to see a push from the federal level or a push from the state level to get back to where we actually have the care for people that truly need the care.
There are those out there that will refuse it. We talked to a gentleman yesterday.
Yeah. We'll just kind of go through some of that.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Darren Crow, who is pastor over at Heart of Grand Junction, he said, what we need is mental health institutions again. He said that, but because of civil liberties, that they cannot make these available, at least in an institution form. You can't take away somebody's civil liberties and tell them you have to be in an institution.
Even if they really need to be in an institution.
So he says, if you're making them safe, you're violating their rights, their civil rights. And civil rights are the greatest enemy of the mentally disabled, because the problem is that many homeless don't want to be cared for, but they can't take care of themselves. and they can't follow instructions. So you run into this, I can't help you because of your civil liberties. And so he gave several examples that he had experienced as part of the church. And one of them, and he said, housing is not the solution for those that are mentally ill. They'll walk away or they'll destroy it. And our opinion is that that would quickly happen with any government housing that you have. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the property.
No.
So you need something that says if you need to be here and we'll take care of you, but we've got to find a way, or we just can't take care of you. If you're not willing to be taken care of, we can't take care of you. And he talked about, these were some examples. He had a homeless man that was passed out under his car, and which I told you about before, and he called the police because he thought the man might be dead. The police pulled him out from underneath the car to make sure he wasn't dead and wasn't going to run over him, I guess. But the police could not make him safe, couldn't do anything for the man until they left for 10 minutes. He called, filed a trespass complaint, and then they could come back and take care of the man, take him off in an ambulance. But they couldn't do anything for him before that time. So, their hands are tied. And he has a lady that's lived in her vehicle for 4 months in the church parking lot. And oftentimes during the day, she's running around without her clothes on and, just causing all sorts of fear for people coming in.
And she's got a belligerent attitude. Mm-hmm. She's not a nice person.
But on Sundays,
right.
She doesn't cause any problems because she knows that the congregation would come in and tow her away or something. And
she's just smart enough to know that, but not capable of controlling.
Controlling the behavior. And then he had another example of when what they want is money. They don't want to have, he provides gift cards, and he says, I give them $20 gift cards to
and
City
Market gift cards. Yeah.
And so they can go get what they need, because he said apparently when it's again not looking at them, they don't want a box. He said he knows both Salvation Army and the food bank has all of these boxes of food, but they don't want them because they don't want what they've put in the box. They want to make their own decisions. And it's one of those, well, are you truly in need, or?
There's a lady named Holly who's been a local for as long as I can remember, and she's been on the streets in Grand Junction for as long as I can remember, and she has to be probably close to 70, if not older. And I've heard stories that they've gotten housing for her over the years, and that she refuses it because it doesn't have a white picket fence out front. And it's that mental illness that it's created a blockade in her mind that she can't accept it. Like it's not going to be okay. So I think there is, and like I said, this is so far beyond the city's role. But I think we do have the bottom line. We do have a group of people in our society that need much greater help than what is available for them. And so this is something Laurel speaks about a lot. It's the dual diagnostic care.
Yes.
Oftentimes these people do have medical care, and they'll be seen separately by a doctor and a psychiatrist, and they'll be medicated individually by each individual.
And get over medicated.
Yes, and there's no communication between the doctors. Right. Nobody knows anything, and then they're on a cocktail of meds that doesn't mix, and it doesn't end well for them.
That's right.
Where getting a person that actually has the ability to look at both their physical and their mental health all in one, and medicate that person, and make sure, it's funny, when I speak with Jody Visconti-Clo from the Catholic Outreach Day Center, she speaks of some of the people, the clients, some of our locals that have been around for years that, they're the faces you recognize downtown.
Yes.
And she says when they get incarcerated, they do so well. Because there is structure.
Right.
And she said they thrive. They thrive in jail because they know when to get up, they know when to go eat, they know exactly what's next, and that's what they need. They need that structure. And then they get released, and it's just
chaos again.
Yeah, back to chaos, and there's no structure. There's no real hope of structure. You know,
And
so
there's no real hope for them because they're not being able to move on.
I had a conversation with an officer from GJPD who I really respect the other day, and I asked him, I'm like, you know, what are you guys doing nowadays? He's like, we're not trying to run people off everywhere if we can't. He's like, if people are somewhere that they're really not bothering anybody, we're not going in there to just hassle them and run them off, because they ask us where they're supposed to go and we don't have an answer for them.
Right. Well,
He's
you
like,
don't.
it's so hard to trespass somebody and have them say, where do you think we should go? Where are we safe? And they're also not to be an answer for that. So I definitely see both sides.
And the bottom line is that civil liberties isn't all exactly what it cracked up to be.
Yeah. Well, and
You know, I like the idea, but the premise has far-reaching.
well, and I think it's also, there's underlying rules of civilization that aren't necessarily laws. They're just unspoken ways that we treat each other and interact with each other. And if people can't interact with society and be involved, they do need help at some level to be able to find peace in a lot of ways, and health and dignity. And you know, I think of that Conservative Heart book a lot, and how they talk about, you know, I see all of these people as assets. You know, not necessarily a financial asset, but what does that individual have inside them to offer our community? There could be something so great in that person and so much potential, and we've told them so much that it's not there and they can't do anything, that it might not ever shine. So
And there's some examples of that kind of thing that you're talking about is the people downtown taking these people and saying, sweep my sidewalk. I'll give you X amount for sweeping my sidewalk. Something
That was
simple.
in the Conservative
Yeah.
Heart. That
Yeah.
was push the broom.
Yeah.
Push the broom. Those kind of things, and that's what I read also in this other book.
There
It
was-
just
years ago, we had the homeless man. It's really bothering me that I can't draw his name right now. The
I know
gentleman
who
that
you're
was
talking
murdered.
about.
That he was killed by the other homeless man on the bridge. But it's going to drive me nuts that I can't think of his name right now. But he was a quiet man who sat and read, and he would go to these different business owners around town, and he would work for them. He would earn money throughout the day. He would go over to the bar on First and Grand and have one beer at the end of the day, and then he would go to his place. But like, he would work, and he was part of our downtown community.
Well, people knew him and they weren't afraid of him.
No, not at all. I
And
mean,
that's the key, I think, is one thing that this book talked about. Tell Ben the title again, because I forget.
Oh, well, I'd have to get that back out again. Sorry about that.
But one thing they talked about is that we go in with a savior complex because we think everything's material, and it's really relational. And that's what I see Mona Highline working on so much, and I think that we need to add that to the mix when we're looking at the nonprofits of not how do we materially get them out of where they are, but how do we relationally get, because we're all broken. Everybody is broken. They're broken in a different way. And theirs could be, and it's what you were saying, if you have no sense of dignity and you have no sense of purpose, then you have no hope.
Yep.
And the title of that book was When Helping Hurts.
Yeah, and that's what it does.
And some of this, like the Homeward Bound, just the way, if you're saying, okay, we want to make sure you're not cold tonight, but how do we make, it's the fish. I can give you a fish, or I can teach you to fish.
Yes. Well, and I see the city's role very similar in that position too, because I see what they do for their clients very similar to what we're doing with them, to where we want you to be able to stand on your own feet. we want you to be able to fund
As a
yourself.
nonprofit.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So it's but when we get in this position when we're funding year after year after year, at what point does that become an expectation instead of an extra give? So and I think it's just like we talked with your list
The
of
first
how
box,
how-
first it's appreciated,
Yep.
then it's anticipated, like you're 500,000, then it's expected, and then it's demanded,
demanded.
Yes, exactly.
and it's a gift.
Yep, and you've created a situation where that's just to be expected, and that can't be. That the city is in a financial role that if there are one-time asks that can really make a difference, they can handle that. But we can't be in a operational role year after year after year to where it becomes just expected.
Well, and when you have to let other services fall by the wayside to take care of those, then there's a problem.
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Or put a tax burden on
Well,
people.
Yes.
and I look at things. The 4th and 5th Street project is such a great example. A big amount of the people that were complaining about the 4th and 5th Street issues were about speeding. Well, we don't have enough police officers to put on 4th and 5th Street to do speed reduction. It's like, so is the solution to redesign 4th and 5th Street, or do we need more police officers? It's like, I think that's a pretty easy.
So why don't we put people to work, give them something to do, some reason to be here,
Yep.
and maintain what we have?
Yeah. And that's something too that I'm really excited with our strategic plan is we have such a focus on maintenance now over expansion, which doesn't mean as we grow, we're not going to have to grow infrastructure wise, but it also means we have a beautiful Canyon View Park. We can't build a bunch of new parks and forget about Canyon View. Like, that's
Amen.
got to be taken care
Yes.
of as well.
Yes,
So-
Lisa's favorite thing is Lincoln Park.
You didn't know
And the
that,
golf
did
course.
you?
And it's the same situation. I mean, the Orchard Mesa Pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
As
Same
far,
thing.
that's
Same
a
thing.
community asset, and it's so much more than a community asset because it's an asset in an underserved part of our community.
Exactly.
And when you replace an asset in an underserved part of our community with an asset in an affluent part of our community, it's hard to feel good about that in a lot of ways. I was really happy with the town hall and the general consensus from council to find some
Solution.
solutions for the Orchard Mesa Pool. And my hope is as well is that we can look at that entire chunk of property up there and really find some creative solutions.
Well, our town is big enough, and it's still growing. Our town is big enough to have 2 community centers easily, and
Or
that.
2 pools. I mean,
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
even at that, you still could have a community room or however many other
Yeah.
things that could go in the same.
well, like
area.
the Clifton Community
Yeah.
Center.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
And I think that's a great example too, because it's not the Taj Mahal. It's built very much for what they needed in that facility. It's also a very similar situation to where that's an underserved area as well. And we're giving them a resource that can be a place that can unite the community within the walls of that place.
Something to be proud of.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and
Pride goes a long ways in making a community grow and thrive.
Well, and feeling valued.
Yes.
I think that is part of the thing. Orchard Mesa always feels like they're not valued.
Yes.
Stepchildren.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And there's a few projects that are going to be happening up there pretty quick. Sidewalk project on B&a-half Road, so safe streets for school access for kids walking.
Okay.
So we're going to be putting a bunch of new sidewalks up there. Bunch of new pavement on the walkways up at Eagle Rim. And that's also what I'm hopeful with that pool is that we can tie Eagle Rim into something greater with all that land, whether it be housing, a community center, but something that can help support, medical clinic would be, I mean,
Up there, yes.
we have nothing
Nothing
in that
there.
area.
Or the library.
Well, and the library is very interested. I mean, they're ready to rock. So
And they've got money.
Yep. So I think that it's finding creative ways to put these things up there, and then also finding ways that they can share in the responsibility of the pool. My hope is that we can find, like with the medical side, if we can find a private partner who's willing to have the pool be more of like a sponsorship kind of thing, but they can have like a clinic up there and do their rehab at the pool, to where it's less about ROI on the pool for them and it's more about an investment in the community and showing a community that their brand is invested very heavily in their community. That can be great for an organization like a healthcare organization that's really trying to break into a community, especially like in urgent care or something like that, because you're already going to be drawing that population base anyhow. So if you can find an organization that's willing to step up and be a partner in that way, that's something I'm really hopeful for. And I know those Orchard Mesa pool ladies are already working on all of that on their own too.
Those people are the most dedicated group I've ever seen in my life.
I had told Mary Ann the other day that if they get the pool saved, they are going to need a different mission.
And we have a lot of them for them to fill.
They're going to need a different mission. But I'm really hopeful on that front. And the fact of the matter is, if we want to make it work, we'll find ways to make it work.
I just final on that homeless situation. I do think that we need to, we've got a table, and I think we need to have everybody at the table, but people that come in with new ideas. Like that book was so good in saying, how can we incorporate that? I think Mona does the closest to this book that I've seen.
Yes.
But just having all the different points of view, because if you just come in with, Scott, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. Well, what's the best way to help, and what's been statistically looked at and said, this has been tried here, and you haven't even seen it because you've never read that, you've never been exposed to it, but just getting more people and taking time, just not doing like they did with the
Don't
tent.
jump.
Just say, well, I'm sorry, we might have to do nothing for a little bit of time until we've really had a chance to think through this and what's the best way to handle this, and not be reactive, be proactive.
And in a lot of ways, I don't look at Grand Junction as, it's a silly thing to say, but we don't always have to be the leader in certain things. We aren't, with the AMI of Grand Junction being lower than a vast majority of our state, we aren't in a fiscal position to necessarily be experimenting. But that doesn't mean we can't lean on other people's experiments and learn from communities that have tried things, take what's worked best for them and implement those things. But I also look at like this situation with Homeward Bound, that in a sink and swim situation, the community's really risen up.
Oh, they have.
You look at the Bray Cares Foundation with the Bray family. They've matched a huge amount of money and put in.
The Bray family is very
Generous.
Well, anyway, I can't say that word.
Philanthropic.
Thank you very much.
And incredible people. I went to school with one of the Brays, Amy Bray, from elementary school. I mean, in our community as deep as possible. Her mom was did our art heritage in elementary school. So, I mean, great people that have grown a business and grown it to a point that most of us would have let it go to our heads. And they've stayed kind and humble and generous. But I think it's also an exceptional example of what happens when we don't try to fix everything, that we give the community an opportunity to step up and take care of some of these problems on their own. In different communities, the churches do a lot more for the unhoused population than what we see in Grand Junction in a lot of ways. We don't see a lot of emergency shelters in churches in Grand Junction, when a lot of them do have the ability to do that if they'd like, where in other communities you do see more of that. But that's a hard answer as well.
That was also something that Matt Soper said, is that in some ways the city, when it jumps in, then it takes that away from the church.
So they
that
lose
compassion.
They
lose their purpose.
And we come in regardless of how compassionate we are or how solution-oriented we are, and we are the powerhouse of the city. And a lot of times we operate as a bulldozer. So we see a job and we start pushing. And that's not always what you need, because sometimes you're pushing the people out of the way that need to be leading that thing.
And
it's
that are,
just like typical government.
Yep.
and you don't have the care from the government that you do from the church. If
Yep.
the church is involved, they're involved in the relationship.
they're
If the city's
passionate.
involved, they're involved in the solution.
Yep.
Or a solution.
It's a fiscal decision.
It's-
This is costing our jail system. This is costing our police force. This is costing business in our downtown area. Therefore, if we invest X amount of dollars into it, it'll clean up these problems for us. Which
We'll manage the problem.
and that's
manage.
the theory, but I also haven't seen examples to support this.
Well, and that's what they thought with the resource center.
Yep.
And the resource center was a total bust.
And it was and instead of
And that
being a
was an
reduction,
experiment.
Yes.
and instead of being a reduction of resources, it became a draw on resources. And it was probably the leading 911 call center for the valley for a little while. So yeah, it's just, and even with that, it's so disappointing because it could have gone much better. Like, I don't think it ever could have been a perfect situation, but it could have gone so much better than what it did if there was a real drive to make it a community-oriented situation to where the neighbors had a say in what was happening. They felt like they had a voice. They felt like they had protections. You know, the location of it being right outside the True Hotel was very strange from the get-go. I mean, being by my business is one thing. I'm small fries. Like, I'm a nobody. The True Hotel, like, those guys are gonna pull a little bit of weight. So when it was put across the street from them, like, that was the first major problem we had, and it was kind of doomed from the start at that point. But just pumping your brakes, taking your time, looking at what other communities have done, following that. But something I've spoke a lot about lately is we need to change this to where instead of us leading our local nonprofits, we can support them from time to time, but we have to let the people that know the problem the best lead the solution. Not just us jamming a circle peg into a square hole.
Last question, and this is on DDA, because you're on the board. And sometimes, this is my opinion, nobody else has it, it feels like the DDA is operating off on its own and maybe not taking the whole, like the 4th and 5th Street pushing. And I know they say that they really didn't have any input into that, but I know that they did. And it's, when are they acting outside of their parameters of the downtown, just those businesses, making the downtown center better, and maybe sometimes even looking at the businesses that are already there and saying, how do we protect that business? That business has been there for a long time. But if you put in something and say, well, this is the newest and shiniest and best, but it puts the other business out, or it makes the other business say, I can't compete, then what line should be drawn in what authority the Downtown Development Authority has? Or at least that they have to listen and say, does that really benefit all the businesses and homeowners?
In a lot of ways, they do have a lot of control, especially when it comes to Main Street alone. The city has kind of turned over a lot of the decision making with the downtown corridor to the DDA. 4th and 5th Street was a wonky one because the DDA had a plan going back to the 1980s that had 4th and 5th Street going. I think they had them as one-ways, each one-way, two-way, both ways, with single lanes. And I think that's what they were hopeful to see come out of the project from day one. I think they got a lot of pushback with that because it was going to significantly reduce parking. So I think when this picked up some momentum and they saw, the potential change, they were looking at it, specifically from a DDA perspective of how does this project affect us? Well, it reduces the traffic cutting through the middle of Main Street. It makes the pedestrian corridor easier to walk. So I think because of that, they saw that as a real positive, and that's why I think they really supported the project. You
But
know,
also on that's where they're out of their lane, because the people that are outside, it's not just about you, it's about the whole community.
yeah, and it's
what impacts the whole community.
But even in line with that, you get into a decision like 4th and 5th Street where there's other decisions like some of the Main Street revitalization that they're talking about, where that's a DDA decision.
Sure.
They're funding it, they're taking care of it, so they can make that decision. Where 4th and 5th Street, they were making more of a recommendation. They were coming and saying, this is what we want to see happen. Now, 4th and 5th Street.
What DDA wanted to
Yes.
see happen, but not necessarily the businesses that all were part of DDA, whether they want to be or not.
Yeah, and that's I think where things and things get a little bit wonky between the DDA and the bid. The DDA is very heavily funded, but the DDA doesn't actually work as like a representation organization for the downtown. It's all on reducing blight and economic driving. Where there's the bid's supposed to be more about like the events, the community building, the representing the community, where it's really very low funding on that side. It's basically just enough funding to be able to put on like the farmers markets and the activities like that, and then not a lot extra. So it's hard because the vast majority of the funding, the resources, and the actual office hours that are spent are on the DDA side, where it's not really their role to work as an advocate. Something I've spoke a lot with Brandon Stam is, how can we do a better job at reaching out to these businesses that aren't in the DDA board meetings, don't really know about what the DDA does or the bid, to let them know, like, this is what's going on in the downtown community. And I give Brandon a lot of credit. He's looking for new ways to have information be shared a lot better, because I think he sees council's push for that, and I think he's really kind of following suit to really try to get more information out there to be a better representation.
Well, and then he gets more information back.
Yeah.
The feedback coming back would be
Absolutely. And
outstanding.
Again, the businesses need to feel like if they provide feedback, I mean, it's city, everybody, if I provide you feedback, I need to feel like the feedback was looked at, digested, and not just, okay, thank you,
and I think
move on.
And it's something we see with council as well, is most people aren't really fully aware of they don't know the scope of projects across the city until it like really comes to their doorstep. That's when they they see it and get involved with it. So I think that happens a lot with the DDA, to where there isn't really a lot of knowledge amongst the business owners that aren't extremely involved in the DDA about what the DDA is doing. So finding ways to bridge that gap, there's things like I had mentioned, the revitalization project on Main Street. They're looking at adding new art, new play features, new shaded areas, possibly bumping out some parking areas and making more like seated areas on the sidewalks, and doing a ton of work. But I'm not really sure the vast majority of businesses down there know that's even in the works.
I'm sure they don't.
So it's getting to a point where we can spread information better, more efficiently. And I think some of it too is just, I think we're in a way of repairing relationships in a lot of ways right now. I think there's been some negative feelings kind of all across the board over the last few years.
Yes.
And we're noticing that as we bridge some of these gaps and fix some of these relationships, that it's bringing our downtown community closer. Before I ran for council, when I was really involved in our downtown business group, there were some people that spoke out very strongly against the DDA in those groups. And I can say, like, since that point, and I've gotten on council, there's been UniFirst Mortgage, who was one of the businesses that was on our business group. They never really spoke out against the DDA, but applied for a storefront revitalization grant, and were able to do a bunch of work on the front of their building. Jeremy, the president of the Elks Lodge, who was in our business group and had spoke out a lot, they're now going to apply for the facade grant to hopefully paint the Elks Lodge.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
wonderful.
so I'm starting to see these different connections of people being drawn in that, like, you know, the Elks Lodge, they didn't even know these grants were available. And these can be matching grants that'll pay for up to half of their project, up to like $50,000. It's a
And that's a
substantial,
wonderful
yeah.
thing, yeah.
So
That's something that all of the downtown owners could take advantage of.
yeah, Trout from the Rock Slide, he just applied for the mural grant. So that mural on the back, the new mural on the back of the Rock Slide was contributed to by the DDA. And that's another great example
so
of
if
that
the
divide.
businesses
And
see
that's
that
also
it
some of your
benefits them.
art
Yeah.
stuff.
And it's some great
Yeah.
art. Yeah.
Well, and those businesses are paying taxes
Yes.
to be able to see, so they need to see the value of what are you doing for me?
Bring the downtown
Yeah.
back to what 1960s when they revitalized the whole downtown stretch. If you could bring the owners back to that again, that was the majority of the business owners, and they were
75%
all
of that was
involved.
funded by business.
It was all involved.
25%.
Well, and just, I think getting to a point where people know what's happening as well, and that's something I've talked about with Brandon, is how do we do a better job at sharing these stories, about sharing the information about these grants. 300 Main Street on 3rd and Main, the building with the weird glass windows around the bottom where you can look down, just repainted, and they took advantage of our facade grant as well, and huge cost savings. And if you drive by that building, it looks beautiful.
It does
It
look nice.
made a giant change
looks
to it.
nice.
So, I mean, I look at things like that, and a lot of these businesses on the Main Street corridor, they're not super lucrative businesses. They're your mom and pop shops that they can afford to pay their employees, they can afford to pay themselves, but at the end of the day, there's not a ton of money left.
Right.
So you look at having to care for some of these dated buildings that need a ton of love, and then you're not making the money to do it. Having a tool like the DDA to be able to come forward and say, like, we want to help you paint, we want to help you get new
Well,
windows.
and you think about the
And-
rents on some of those buildings are really high
Yep.
in comparison. So you've got to try to make those rents as well as trying to pay your employees and yourself.
and
Well,
parking.
and also,
Yeah,
I
don't
really
even mention
think that
parking.
the biggest thing, though, too, is, you know, you're always saying what they're doing, but before you start anything, I think city council, county, everybody, if you can say, this is what we'd like to do, what do you think? Let's get your feedback before you start a project, and instead of telling me, okay, this is the project done, and this is how
This
it
is
can
why
be.
you're gonna love it.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. I mean,
I told Mike yesterday, I'm like, you know, our town hall was so successful. I'm like, I honestly think a great opportunity for our next town hall is to do one at the barn. Let's,
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
let's
I'm
do
going,
it on the
what barn
barn.
are you
the
talking
Lincoln
about?
Park-
No,
yeah,
Lincoln
the
Park
barn.
Lincoln Park barn, and let's do it on the barn.
Yeah.
Like, let's have a town hall about the barn and really get
Well,
a
and
good
people
feel.
would be happy to give you all kinds of feedback on that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think that you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Again, you
I'm all over the place.
yeah, we like that.
We are
We
all
are too.
over the
If there's a
place.
squirrel, I'm going to look
Yeah,
at
I'm
it.
the same way. We'll chase together.
Yeah. So you've been watching Mesa County Compass. This is the facts as we know them, the truth as we see it. You decide. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks,
Appreciate
ladies.
you.
Really enjoyed it.